Does it feel a bit like the landscape of the sport is starting to change a little bit when it comes to obviously, new events like Keely's one. We're looking at projects like Grand Slam track and things coming up this year. Does it feel like there's a change in approach to how things are staged?
Yeah, I think people know that they're kind of sorry, there almost needs to be a change in some way. Track and field has obviously been going on for hundreds of years or however long it's been, and as a athletics fan, it's so fun and engaging. But there are so many new sports, kind of like CrossFit or High Rocks and paddle tennis that are coming in, and they have huge crowds. And then we have our athletics, and we have kind of not very many people turning up. So it's like we're missing something, and I think people are trying to find what we're missing and trying to make it more exciting, which is very important without kind of losing the history and the specialness of the sport because that's what I love about it. Um, so it's finding that balance, but I think it is necessary that people are kind of finding different ways of presenting the sport.
Yeah, yeah, and because when it comes to your event, for example, I don't think it's until people are next to the bar or closer to
Yeah.
the bar that they actually realize what you're doing.
I think Mondo has made such a huge difference for pole vault. He's really drew a lot of attention to it. I think a few years ago, if I had said I'm a pole vaulter, not everyone would have kind of known what I was talking about. Whereas now, if I say I'm a pole vaulter, they kind of know who Mondo's name is just because he's such a big name in the sport and has done so much, which is really nice.
Yeah, yeah. And when it comes to this indoor season, what's your schedule looking like at the moment? Are you obviously going for Europeans? Are you looking at your world indoor title
Yeah,
as well?
it's currently looking quite busy, so we're just going to try and we I'm probably competing more than I have done ever before, but we're going to try and kind of like strategize competitions and maybe do some off shorter approach and a full approach and just use each competition as training. I'm not as good in training as I am in competition when it comes to actual technical pole vaulting. I find it hard to get on bigger poles. So for me, competitions are a great kind of bridge to get to the major championships because it allows me to use the extra stimulus and everything to jump higher. But the plan is to do European and world indoors. So
Yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah.
you've kind of answered my question. I was going to just say, how different is it to be involved in a championship competition as
Yeah.
opposed to, a more standard setup.
Well, I actually love indoors. Last year was my first international indoors ever, so I'd never competed abroad before last year. And I went to France to do a few competitions, and they put on such great meets, and they're so much fun. And the crowds are always great, and there's music and there's lights, and it's just a whole new thing. It's really fun and exciting. And I normally perform well at those kind of meets, and but the championships, there's just nothing like it. I think that's what really matters. That's where people are watching. That's who everyone around the world is watching, and I love that as well. Glasgow was so much fun. I mean, it was a home games and I won, which is obviously great and makes it more enjoyable. So yeah, I'm excited to get to do it again.
How much does that win still sort of come back into your mind? How much do you sort of replay those moments from Glasgow?
Yeah, quite often I think. I think like again with what happened at the Olympics, and then I try not to let that cloud the whole year because it was an amazing year. I ended up being world lead and by the end of it, and I broke the British record and I jumped over 490 and I won world indoors. And all of those moments I try to think back to and remember because it was such a special year. Um, and like I said, for the majority, I had so much fun, and that's what I love doing and that's why I do it. So yeah, it was really great.
Yeah, is the fun something or that aspect of things something that you try and lean on when the championship environment maybe does start to feel like it's closing in a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And I always try to take a moment where whenever I'm at a championship to look around and be grateful and really take the atmosphere in. And I actually did that in Paris in the first hour while I was kind of waiting to come in and warming up because the stadium was amazing, the crowd was amazing, the just the buzz of the whole place was so much fun. And until, that no height, I was having fun, which I do think is so important because we get quite a short career in our lifespans. So I just don't want to take anything for granted. And I perform better when I'm enjoying myself. I don't force it. Sometimes competitions will be stressful, and that's fine too. But yeah, it's definitely something I try to lean into for sure.
Yeah, and the prospect of what lies ahead must be really exciting, given the sort of the standard of the event, the number of people who are going to be in contention. It's an open field again this year, isn't it?
Yeah, it is an open field, and I think I'm so hungry for like competition, and I'm hungry to like make a comeback and try and win and everything like that, which is really, like you said, exciting because there's so many good girls that are all pushing each other. And for me, it's kind of like, okay, I've jumped 492. My next bar will be hopefully 5 meters, and then the one after that would be attempting the world record. So when you put it into like that kind of perspective, it's kind of like, okay, we've got 2 bars to jump uh, and then like we've made it. So that's really, really exciting. It's not something that we think about too much, but I've had kind of conversations with my coach and stuff, and like just to be having those conversations and having it in the back of my head is kind of surreal actually.
Yeah, I was going to say what your next kind of targets are, but I think so the 5 meter bar is the next big landmark to
Yeah,
go for.
absolutely. 5 meters is a huge landmark for me. I think I'm not sure the last time someone jumped that. It's probably 2020 or 2021 maybe. So there's been a few years that no one has jumped 5 meters, and I would love to be the next person to do it. I think it's definitely within my capabilities. Um, and like I said, I've had a really solid winter's training. The numbers that we've kind of been looking at, I'm faster, I'm stronger. So there's no reason I can't do it. And I'm going to be competing a fair bit, so hopefully I'll get the chance to give it a go.
Have you changed much? Is there, or is it just a case of building on what you've done and just pushing these things sort of incrementally?
For the majority of things, just building. We've not really changed anything. I don't actually pole vault too much. I only jump once a week because the more I jump, the worse I seem to get. I just like to like take it steady just so I can kind of think about things in between. So I have a week in between each session, and then the rest of it, we've really been working on my speed, which I guess is the only really real change we've made. We've been doing overspeed and stuff like that just to try and make me faster off the runway. So then when I'm on the runway, it's kind of just like easy and free, and I can hopefully use bigger poles and go higher in the air. So yeah, there's not been any major changes, just small increments and building over time.
Yeah, I did notice your Instagram has a lot more videos of you on the track than
Yeah,
before.
yes, yeah, more track running definitely, and less on the actual runway. I feel like my technical work is pretty good, so we don't need to do anything too crazy with that. It's all before I take off on the ground that we're working on at the minute.